Seriously? This is going to be like Call Me Daddy. Johnny Mac Daddy.
To what now?
Brian, are you recording that? That would be such a funny social media.
What is Call Me Daddy?
That's a really popular...
Call her daddy.
Oh, is it Call Her Daddy?
Yeah.
Oh, Call Her Daddy. Yeah.
Shoo!
Yeah.
Whatever that
I
is.
thought you were like totally into these podcast things.
I don't watch Call Me Daddy.
No, I don't either. I just heard about it.
Sure. Okay. Welcome back to segment 3, the close phase. Got a few more questions to ask of you, John. So let's dive right in. So let's talk about the close phase. If you've done your job right and you've handled the objections, you should be they should be fairly minimalized, but they still happen from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
So if a seller says the other agent said they do it for less, kind of going back to a commission question, how do you pivot from that conversation to show your value rather than just the commission charged?
Yeah. Well, again, if you do it right, that question probably won't come up. But it does. It does come up from time to time, right? Because you've got some savvy people out there that think that,
And negotiate the best deal for themselves.
yeah,
right?
yeah. And the thing is not to be offended by it.
No, you shouldn't be. It's just...
Well, here's the thing. Is it
it's a
okay for them to
conversation,
ask?
Right.
Is it okay for them to ask?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, right? But it's also okay to say no.
Right.
Right? And so my typical response is well, if they're willing to do it for that, if you call around a little bit more, I know someone that will do it for, 1% less than that, 2% less than that. There are even people out there that will do it all for $500.
Right.
That's all I say. And then the response typically is, I knew there was a catch. And then it just settles it right then and there. But you have to make a business decision. So, here's the thing with negotiating. You have to be prepared to walk away. And if you're not prepared to walk away, at least don't make a decision out of fear of loss, right? But sometimes that's hard to accomplish all at once. So you almost have to practice with little things in your life before you can handle some of the bigger things. But honestly, if you've got a mortgage payment to be made, or you really need this sale, to make ends meet or things like that, this isn't a time to play, because I don't want your desperation to shine through the conversation. But if they said, someone else would be willing to do it for less, okay, that's great. But don't feel like you have to come all the way down and meet them, at that exact same point. You can just respond back by saying, were there any differences that you saw in what we brought to the table versus the other people that you met with? Yes, I see that, you talked about how you're going to sell a story, versus just putting pictures online, and how that's going to help sell our house for more, and so on and so forth. And you can say, look, here's the thing. You're not paying me a dime today. We're just putting a property on the market, and we're presenting an offer out to the community. And then we're going to receive offers back. And then we're going to negotiate those offers. And at the end of the day, you're the one that gets to decide whether any of us get paid. So if at the end of the day, the offer that you receive minus the expenses, to sell it and things like that, if that doesn't work for you, you get to make that decision. You're not committed to it, right? So I'm showing you that the marketing that Berkshire Hathaway and myself are bringing to the table, the way that we're pricing it, is designed to sell your house for more. And let me tell you one more thing. That 1% difference that we're talking about right here, a mispriced house, a botched negotiation, not reaching the opportunity buyer, and the tools that we have to reach an opportunity buyer we reviewed, right? Is this, and this.
Well, how about just your experience in the home inspection phase or the appraisal phase?
Just missing out on, botching a home inspection negotiation, or not working with the appraiser to make sure the value
Properly,
is secured,
right? Yep.
that could cost you 2, 3, 4, 5% or more.
Yeah.
So
Look, the transactions I do are usually larger volume transactions, commercially orientated, and I see it all the time,
Yep.
especially in land transactions where people get bad advice, get involved in transactions that they're bound to for years and years. And what does that cost that person? You know, it's so to your point,
yeah,
you can save 10 grand but lose 150,000 on the other side
Yeah.
in our transactions.
Yeah.
You know, but
but they could lose $10 or $15 or $20,000 in a blink.
in a residential
You
transaction
know,
too,
just to
so,
save 1%
Right.
or 0.5%.
Yeah, and I think those questions about commission only come up if you don't successfully execute phase 1 and phase 2.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
mean, when you're at this point, if they're still trying to negotiate with you on the commission rate.
So what I would encourage anyone to do is if they're challenged that way when they're trying to close, or if they didn't get the listing for whatever reason, sit down with your manager and do a debrief and try to determine where the conversation went wrong or where it could have been a little bit better to have precluded some of those objections.
Right.
So that next time you go out, you handle it better.
Okay, good. Yeah, please, everybody that's out there listening to us, remember our leadership team is awesome, and they've addressed or have had these experiences that we're talking about today hundreds of times over. You know, we're a very open door company, and you can come to any of us to improve your skill sets. So take advantage of that. So for the for sale by owner crowd who wants to try it on their own or by themselves for a few weeks, you have some great stats from NAR on how they usually sell for 10% less. But how do you deliver the hard truth without them getting offended?
Well, you know what? If we're doing our job right, it looks easy. And I certainly can understand why someone might want to try selling their house on their own, because it doesn't really seem all that hard. But we all know that there's a lot more to it than just stick it in the MLS and writing an offer and going to the closing table, right? But here's the thing. I work with a lot of buyers, or have worked with a lot of buyers over the years, and when inventory is tight, or if there's an opportunity to go look at a for sale by owner house, I can give you the buyer's perspective. And this is what I would share with a for sale by owner, right? Is I would come at them from a couple of different ways. If they're already a for sale by owner, I would go, so how have you been marketing the home? And they'll be like, well, we did an open house last weekend. How many people did you have through? Oh, we had like 20 or so. So, you know, what did they have to say? You know, what was the feedback? Did you follow up with any of them? And it's usually like, yeah, no, we didn't really do that. Did you get their phone numbers? No, we didn't really. You know, they're just not salespeople. They're not there positioning the property. But from the buyer's perspective, what I've noticed is that the buyers come in feeling a little nervous about going into a for sale by owner house.
Right.
One, they're not hiring a professional. Why? Is it just to save money, or are they hiding something? Are they not
good point.
disclosing something?
Right.
And it may not be true, but it's certainly a question that people have.
Right.
And the other is that they know they're not paying a real estate commission, so they're not willing to pay retail price for a house. They want it for wholesale.
Yeah.
So if you've got a buyer coming in that's already thinking wholesale, number one. Number two, they don't trust you,
Oh, that's
right?
yeah.
So where's their offer coming in? And here's the other thing. They're going to ask me what I think the price of the house is worth, right? So you've got three things working against you in the process. And then you got to manage it all on top of that.
Well, if they're going to make an offer on a for sale by owner where they have to do most of the work,
Yeah.
and or they hire a buyer agent,
Yeah.
and then the for sale by owner is going to have to build in the fee anyhow,
Yeah.
right? Or be asked for the fee, but they're going to discount the price. They're going to be wanting a deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're going to say you're not really saving the commission at the end of the day.
I had a really wealthy client that was retired, and he had a property that he wanted to sell, and I gave him a price for it, and he was like, well, you know what, I think I might just want to try this out for a couple of weeks on my own, and see how it goes, and I said to him, I says, do you have, or I would imagine you would have, a financial planner managing, your millions of dollars? And he goes, that's a really bad example. And I said, why is that a bad example? He says, because I outperform my financial planner all the time. And I'm like, I bet you do. You want to know why? He says, because you're just playing. He says, but your financial planner has a fiduciary responsibility to preserve and maximize the value of your assets. And he goes, all right, you have the listing. So sometimes you just have to help him see it from another way, right? So I kind of opened up the right side of his brain to be able to relate to what he was actually saying.
Right. And there's certainly a legal side of this, too. It's like, do they know what they need to disclose? Do they have the proper forms to disclose it? How do they write a purchase and sales agreement? I guess they could pull a lot of this stuff offline, but,
And can they pull the emotion out of it?
There's a lot that can be missed there, and there's a lot of liability in it. So.
Yeah.
I almost think that's one of the easiest. That was a layup question I gave you.
I know.
That was a layup out of all of these.
But think of all the emotion in it. Just when we're dealing with our own clients, how much emotion is in a transaction.
Yeah.
Now just imagine putting the buyers and sellers together without someone to manage that emotion.
Scary.
Messy, right?
Okay. Next question. Well, I only have a few more for you. Okay, John?
Oh, great. I can't wait to hear what this one is.
Well, this one's a classic. So we all have a friend in the business. You have a very specific way of explaining why mixing business with friendship may be risky because the friends might be overprotective. So what's the script for it? And on the converse, we advocate sphere of influence, friends and family. If you're in that situation, so put on your real estate hat here, John.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one because if we have the opportunity to meet with someone who has a friend or a family member in the business, you just have to view it as an opportunity right from the get-go. Why are they asking me to have the conversation? It's probably because they've thought about it a little bit, like that mixing business and personal relationships. More things can go sideways real quick in a real estate transaction, and that can easily damage a relationship. And so some people they recognize it right up front and they don't really want any part of it. But some people need to understand that it is a real risk to do so. And because sometimes people don't, real estate agents, if they're friends, they try to manage a lot of things, a lot of the issues, behind the scenes. And sometimes when a problem comes to light, it's too late to deal with because the agent didn't share enough information with their friend early enough to be able to address the problem. So like pride kind of gets in the way and so on and so forth. But often I think
what happens if it goes sideways? You going to fire your friend?
Yeah, I know. Well, that can really damage the relationship. And
Right.
I guess the thing is that just kind of lost my train of thought here for a second. But what I was going to say is that most of us haven't really seen both sides of our friends. We see the fun side of our friends, right? But we've never seen the really stressed out, wigged out, highly emotional side of our friends. And when we're talking about selling our house, our largest asset, and the appraisal comes in wrong, or the buyer is being ridiculous or whatever and pushing all their buttons, sometimes you can see the frustration and anger start to arise out of someone that you've only ever seen the good side of, and that can be kind of hard to see. And if we're seeing it, that's one thing, but if we were the cause of it, it's another. And it's just not worth risking the relationship. So here's the thing. We all want to work with our sphere. We all want to work with our friends. But there's a right way to do it. And I'm not sure everybody sets the stage properly.
Okay, so we're dividing this up into two different
Yeah. So,
sides of the mouse, so to speak, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So if you're going in, the first part was if you're going in and you're somebody else.
Yeah.
You know,
So you
this-
have to basically help them understand that there's risk in it. I'm not trying to take the deal away from their friend. I just want them to understand the risk in it and let them come to their own terms with whether they want to march down that path or not. I'm never going to tell them, yeah, don't do that. I'm not
Okay.
going to be direct about it. I'm just going to say, I just want you to think about a few things. Based on my experience and seeing people's relationships get destroyed because the right expectations weren't set with a friend or a family member helping them sell their property,
Yeah.
right? And, you know, if you don't do that, you won't get any. But if you lay that groundwork out, you'll get some of them,
Okay.
all right?
Now, you have a potential opportunity for a listing, and they are a friend.
Yeah. So
How do you approach that?
yeah, that's a fun one. I actually enjoy doing this. So what I'll do early on, because I recognize, and I'll actually say right up front, I'll say working with a friend or a family member, I work a little bit differently.
Yeah.
When I'm your real estate agent, I want you to know that I'm not your friend,
Sure. Yeah.
okay? And I say that
Well,
rather,
you're your friend, but you're
yeah, but I say it with conviction.
yeah.
Because I want them to know, you know, like I had a really good friend once that was a policeman, and he was just a fun guy, but I did a ride along with him one night, and I saw him go from being really cool, funny friend to copping an attitude and becoming policeman in a sense, and it was like, whoa, I'd never seen that side of him before. So it's the same way with going from friend to real estate agent. Not that I'm going to be super intense, but it's all business when
Right.
it comes to selling your house. So what I do is I create a visual for them to see when I've changed character, because I think it's important for them to see that. So I have this thing called imaginary realtor hat.
Yeah. Tell us about this imaginary real
Yeah,
hat.
it's just imaginary realtor hat. And all I do is I go, hold on one second. This is my imaginary realtor hat. When it's on, I'm your real estate agent. Ask me whatever you want about your house. And then when it's off, we're friends. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that visual is really important. So I'll give you an example. I was working with someone, dear friends of ours, and they actually brought up, you know, we really want to hire you, but we're a little concerned that if something should go sideways, that it might damage our relationship. And I think they knew they were kind of highly emotional people, and I think I had a kind of a taste of that. So I understood, and I brought out the imaginary realtor hat as an example, and it made them feel comfortable. Well, partway through the sale process, we were going out to dinner together. We're at this really nice restaurant, and we're drinking wine and eating steak and doing all this. And Mrs. Seller / friend says, "Why are we doing an open house this weekend? And why are you walking the neighborhood and doing these types of things?" And so I put my glass of wine down, and I reached down here, and I put on my imaginary realtor hat, and I addressed her questions satisfactorily. And then I took my hat off, and then we laughed, and we picked up our glasses of wine, and we tinked them all together, and we just went on with our merry way, right? So it was important to have that separation so that we could have a real frank discussion about the benefits of doing what we were doing so that they felt good about it. But if I just handled that kind of casually, saying, "Oh, don't worry about it, open houses, we do them all the time," you know, and just got too casual with it, I don't think they would have respected the process and me as much.
Did it sell?
It did. It did. And they were very
Was
happy.
it? Yeah, very
And
happy.
the relationship, perfect.
All right, good, good. Last one. So, this is about to stall, so to speak. So, finally, if they say, we need to think about it, you suggest actually building time into the presentation for them to talk privately so you don't leave without their signature. So, how do you execute that naturally?
Yeah, so I'll give you a funny story. Way back in the beginning of my career, on one of my very first listings, it was a for sale by owner, and I was going through the whole listing presentation at their kitchen table, and And it got to a point where they both said, "Could you excuse us for a minute?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And they walked down to the half bath, and they had this private conversation. I have no idea what they talked about. And then they came back and they said, "John, with your vast experience," which I laughed because it was like my first real opportunity.
This was your second or third deal?
Yeah. And I said, "You've decided to list your house with us tonight." And they go, "Let's get started." But I made a note of the fact that they went off to have a private conversation. And I said, "You know what? They were bold enough to separate themselves from me to have that conversation. They must have talked back and forth and said, 'Hey, what do you think? Should we list our house or continue marketing on our own? Oh, I really like this guy. He seems really nice,' and so on and so forth." They had an opportunity to at least talk together and make an agreement. So I said, "You know what? I'm going to build that into my presentation. I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to have that private conversation." Because a lot of people, going in, they've probably already told themselves, "We're not signing
We're not
anything
signing tonight."
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
No matter what he says.
No
we're
matter
not
what he
signing anything
says.
tonight. We're in
Right.
agreement on that, right?
Right. But yes.
So where do you go if there isn't a half bath? And do you walk around the front yard again to just take some extra notes? What do you do?
Well, if there was something exceptional about the property, I might say, "Hey, do you mind if I take another walk around the property? You guys, chat amongst yourself for a
So
little
you're
bit."
building that space so that
Building the space.
Yeah, okay.
It's not that I need to walk around the house again.
Yeah.
I just want to build the space in. Or I
Sure.
might say, "Talk amongst yourselves for a minute. I just want to take another look at the work that you did in the master bath, just rethinking through how I might want to market that." Or if I can't come up with something like that, I'll just say, "Excuse me a second, I forgot something in my car." Just go out to your car and get whatever. Maybe it's the tape measure. Who cares? Just go out to your car for a few minutes. And it just gives them that opportunity to have that private little conversation together. If you don't, they're probably going to say, "Let us think on that overnight and we'll get back to you," or something to that effect. And now you're scrambling to try to get the next appointment, right?
Right.
So it precludes a lot of that. and that's the really cool part about being a salesperson is that if you understand the things that you can preclude along the way, you minimize the objections along the way and definitely at the end.
Oh.
But sometimes they still want to think about it overnight, and that's all right. Just say, "How do you like your coffee in the morning?" Or, "There's this really cool bakery up the street. Have you ever tried it? It's called Ginger Fox. Tell you what, I'll bring over a couple of pastries in the morning. We can talk about and address any other questions you might have. What time works better?" That's all. Just set that next appointment.
Set the next appointment.
Yeah.
Well, tell you what, for our very first podcast in 2026, I thought it went very well, and I think you're a wealth of information. And this concludes the third phase, the close phase. Anything else you want
Of
to?
the first podcast?
Yeah. Anything else you want to leave the audience with?
Yeah, fix this microphone so it doesn't keep falling in my lap.
There you go.
I'm just kidding.
All right. Well, I think that's because of the bevel on the table. So, ladies and gentlemen, get on that, please. No. Thank you all. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you, anytime when you're driving to your next appointment or working out on the Stairmaster or the treadmill, just play this so you can get those little sales techniques committed to memory.
Little nuggets of information. Yeah. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.